What's up, guys, and welcome back to another edition of the Hillside Club. I'm your host, James Martin III. Not here today, Rob Cardini. He is away out of the country for his wedding, but I know he's going through the same emotions I am right now, man. The New York Knicks have won the NBA Finals. And for me saying that, I think I'm in shock right now. I think I'm still in shock from Game 4. I got a lot to unpack. Like I said, I'm genuinely speechless at this. Like, looking at the photos, looking at everything online, it doesn't feel real. Like, I'm about to go to watch my favorite team's parade tomorrow. Not only is it just any parade, it's the New York Knicks, a team that was in a drought for 53 years, a team that everyone doubted all year. I doubted all year. A team that's just been the league's punching bag for the last 2 decades. A team that hadn't seen a point guard for those same 2 decades. A team that genuinely I fired their head coach last year. Brand new expectations. I mean, this is unbelievable. And then Jalen Brunson, just the player he is, wins Finals MVP after winning the ECF MVP and then also winning the NBA Cup MVP. Truly just, again, like, it makes me speechless. It genuinely does make me speechless. And for me, it's not that, the Knicks won the NBA Finals. Yeah, I'm dreaming. I am dreaming. But it's the fashion in which they did so, right?
It's 6 a.m. in Italy. The New York Knicks just won the championship. I'm watching the sunrise right now. I have no idea what I did to deserve this. I think this might be the greatest moment of my life. I'm peaking right now. I just want to thank Jalen Brunson. He is literally by far the greatest Knick I've ever seen. He might be one of the greatest NBA players of all time. I don't care. Just insane. What is life right now? What the hell is going on?
I mean, I have a few notes because my head is scrambling watching the series, but the Spurs led for 72% of the finals. 5 games, they led for 72%. And they ended up losing. The New York Knicks lost by a complete margin of 6 points throughout the whole NBA postseason. They went 16-3, up there with one of the greatest runs in NBA postseason history. They go down double digits in every first quarter of the NBA Finals. There's a lot of drama surrounding Wemby after the Western Conference Finals. There's a lot of drama throughout the whole Finals. How the game was called, Brunson getting hounded 94 feet the whole series. I mean, the foul discrepancy in the first 2 games, ridiculous. Anybody watching that game saw the way they were guarding Brunson. They saw the way they guarded Shea in the series before, and then they just turned it up a notch in the way they were guarding Brunson 94 feet. I mean, the hand of God, they're calling it. OG, a 29-point comeback. Greatest game in NBA history. That's not even an argument. I don't think I'm arguing with anyone about that. That was the greatest game in NBA history. I don't want to hear flu game this. I don't want to hear any other miraculous comeback. They were down 30 at home in the NBA Finals in the Mecca of basketball, New York City, Madison Square Garden, the Mecca of basketball. Let me repeat, the Mecca of basketball. There's a reason they call it the Mecca. Kenny Smith touched on it after Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Everyone in New York City plays basketball. At some point in their life, everyone in New York City plays basketball. You want to know why? The city is so jam-packed and so overpopulated that they only have space for basketball courts and handball courts. So if you want to play a sport, you're going to play basketball. There's no fields. There's no soccer fields where there are as many basketball courts. Yes, there are soccer fields. Yes, there are football fields. But the discrepancy, there's a basketball court on every other block in New York City. That's why it's the Mecca. This city loves basketball like no other. The New York Knicks, every other sports team has a rival in their same sport, right? You got the Yankees, the Mets. You got the Rangers, the Islanders. The Giants, the Jets. Red Bull, NYCFC. The Knicks, the Nets, they were New Jersey's team. They should still be New Jersey's team. The New York Knicks are the city's team. And what they just did is so miraculous. It's storybook. It is completely storybook. And then Brunson to top it off with a 45-point closeout game, tying himself with no one else but the GOAT, Michael Jordan. Most points in a closeout game in the NBA Finals. He's up there now with Jordan. And people have some of the disrespect where they compare him to guys like Kyrie. Kyrie was one of my favorite NBA players of all time. Top 3, one of my favorite NBA players of all time. This dude averaged 32 points in the NBA Finals as the number one option. Again, let me repeat myself. Because we must have been watching two different things. He was the number one option and led a team that had no other All-NBA player this season on it. No other All-NBA player on his team. Led the postseason in points per game with 28 points per game. Then went on and put a masterclass of 32 points per game. Up there with the greatest point guards of all time in finals history. Like, the audacity of some people to compare this guy to other players. Jalen Brunson. No other All-NBA player on his team. And the discourse throughout the NBA Finals or throughout the postseason, right? The Knicks go down 2-1 to the Atlanta Hawks. Oh, it's Hawks in 6 now, right? It's Hawks in 6. Hawks in 6. CJ McCollum, he's the new enemy. The Knicks are not ready. The Knicks are going to have to blow this up. You got to trade Cat. They're not serious. I was on the train, right? No, as a Knicks fan, as a true Knicks fan, right? Not any of these bandwagoners. As a true Knicks fan, when we went down 2-1 to the Hawks, you got scared, right? The Knicks have known nothing but pain my whole life, my father's whole life, right? Nothing but pain and coming up short or just being the laughingstock of the league. They go down 2-1 to the Atlanta Hawks, and it's worrisome. Yes, they only lost those 2 games by 1 point. They were great games, but 2 months ago, when that happened, this would have been such a dream to see them win this championship. And look where they are today. So they go down 2-1, and then they come out flying. Game 4, Game 5, Game 6, where they just completely took the soul of the Atlanta Hawks. And now this team wins by 50+ on the road to close it out. They are now the highest point differential in NBA postseason history. They went 16-3. They are a +283. That is the greatest point differential in NBA history. Guess who's in second place? The 2017 Warriors. The 16-1 postseason Warriors. The KD, I'm going to leave the team that I was the number one option on to go join a team I couldn't beat and go 16-1 in the postseason and win it all. They were a +230. The Knicks were +283. That is ridiculous. A whole 53 points more in differential to one of the greatest teams in NBA history. I am at a loss of words talking about this. This team, I live the Knicks. In middle school, high school, I would come home watching Friday Night Knicks on MSG. Everyone knows that. You got to get there. Friday Night Knicks on MSG. To watch who? Kadeem Allen, right? Alonzo Trier, whole team, Dot, Louis Amundsen. It's ridiculous, man. I'm speechless. I keep saying this because I genuinely am. And I got to say, shout out to Becky Hammond. Because I know that gave Jalen Brunson a lot of fuel. He's been doubted his whole life. He's won in high school, state championship, 2 national championships, player of the year in college. Wins the NBA Cup. Oh, Paul Pierce says, they'll never win a championship in my life. Or the whole discourse is, the Knicks won't win a real one, right? They didn't want to hang up the banner because they wanted to wait for the real one, James Dolan said. Now, guess what? They won the real one. So, matter of fact, go hang both the banners for me. Go hang both the banners. Because the same 2 teams that were in the NBA Cup ended up in the NBA Finals. So what does that mean? At the end of the day, it was competition. So all you old heads who say, this NBA Cup, it's fake. It's competition. And at the end of the day, the guys that play the best when it means the most, they come out and they compete and they play their best basketball and they end up in an NBA Cup final. 20, 30 years from now, we're going to the NBA Cup final, right? It's going to mean something. So as long as you're stepping on the court and competing, why not play your best, especially when there's something on the line, when there's hardware to win? So they went and did that. And then the whole discourse was, oh, it's not real. It's not real. Well, guess what? They got a real one now. They do. They got a real one. And shout out Jalen Brunson. Shout out that starting five. Shout out the whole team. There were games this year where guys went down. Josh Hart went down. OG Anunoby went down. Guys went down, and guys stepped up. So shout out the whole team. Tyler Kolek, Mohamed Diawara, Ariel Hukporti. I mean, Kevin McCullough Jr., Pacome Dadier, all of them. They all stepped up. Alvarado, Clarkson, Trey Jemison. Every last one of those guys. Even shout out Gershon Yabusele, because we don't get a guy like Jose Alvarado without him being on the team. So shout out every single one of those guys. Shamit, Deuce, Mitch. This team from top to bottom, they were a unit. When we saw that mini docuseries that aired on MSG when they were in Abu Dhabi, we saw how connected they were. The young guys learning from the older guys, right? This was the expectations this year was you had to go and win it all. And they did that. Mike Brown, you are forever a legend in New York history. Saw a clip of him actually getting an applause when he was at dinner the other night. He'll never have to pay for a meal again in New York City. None of those guys will. 53-year drought. 53-year drought. See, now, let me go into some of my notes because just incredible. So, yeah, first, let me go back to second series, the Knicks. The Sixers, right? Knicks, Sixers. Sixers just came back off a 3-1 comeback against the Celtics, where the Celtics, the whole thing was, oh, they get Jason Tatum back. He's back. You know, they can really come out the East. The East is wide open. Again, it feels like people are forgetting the way the media was reporting, the way NBA fans, the discourse around the whole playoffs. It seems like we have short-term memory loss. Because about 8 weeks ago, it was the Celtics can win it all. They went up 3-1. You know, Embiid came back for what? They go up 3-1. This is over. The Celtics can come out the East. What happens? Joel Embiid, salute to him for coming back to play with a 7-seed Sixers and then actually completing the 3-1 comeback. Shout out to him. So then, now they're coming off some momentum. Knicks 1-6, Sixers 1-7. I think they had a little more. The Knicks had a little more rest than the Sixers. It's going to be a good series. Everyone's saying it's Sixers and 6. They just beat the Celtics. Well, guess what? The Knicks beat the Celtics the year before. So, again, why are we forgetting the discourse of, oh, it was Sixers and 6, Sixers and 7? I can go in all my group chats. I got the Sixers and 6. I got the Sixers and 7. What happened to that? Right? What happened to that? So then the Knicks, not only do they just sweep them, they whoop that ASS. They belt to AS. It was just up and down a disgrace. Just manhandled the Sixers. Game 1, manhandled. Oh, yeah, they came off a 7-game series. They're tired. The Knicks came off a 6-game series. Okay. It's always something, right? It's always something. So they come off a 6-game series, and they come off a 7-game series, the Sixers. Knicks sweep them. Game 2, closer game. The Knicks got it done. Game 3, the Mitchell Robinson dunk on Embiid game. Just a complete game from the Knicks. Top to bottom. Every player just laid it out there. Game 4. I call that the Deuce McBride game. I feel like every player had a game this series that was in the rotation. Every player, or in this postseason, every player had a game, their signature game. Game 4 in Philadelphia was the Deuce McBride game. He single-handedly helped us get that lead where he had those 6 threes in the first half, 5 threes in the first quarter. You hear the Deuce chants out there in Philly. Took over their arena. Yet again, that's another MSG West, MSG South. And the Knicks put up a record 3-pointers in the postseason, right? They were just breaking record after record after record after record. But they're not good enough for the next series. So then, now we get the Cavs. And the Cavs come off a really great series, against the Pistons, the number 1 seed in the East. The number 1 seed that went down 3-1 to the Magic and then came back. I know Jaren Duren lost out on a lot of money. But they come back versus the Magic, and then they come back after going down 2-0, or I think it was 2-1 to the Pistons. They had a great series. Harden had some great closeout moments. Donovan Mitchell had his game. I believe it was game 4. It was a great series. Great series for the Cavs. A lot of momentum. And then here we go again with the storylines and the discourse. It's, Cavs in 6. Or Cavs in 7. Or Cavs in 5. I heard all of those things. And only people I heard saying Knicks in 5, Knicks in 6 were Knicks fans. But throughout New York media, throughout the discourse, we're hearing, it's Cavs in 5, Cavs in 6, Cavs in that, because they beat the Pistons, the number 1 seed. The same Pistons that went down 3-1 to the Orlando Magic, the 8th seed. The Orlando Magic that probably win that series if Franz Wagner doesn't get hurt. But again, since everyone has amnesia, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back. I'm just gonna track. So then the Knicks come out firing, right? Firing, let me reframe it. The Cavs come out firing. They were frying the Knicks that second half. They went up in that third quarter, up by 20. Donovan Mitchell was doing his spider to the crowd. Everything's sweet, right? Doing his celebration. Harden's getting to the free throw line. Their guys are hitting threes. Dean Wade, they're hitting their shots. Dean Wade is guarding Brunson 94 feet, it feels like. And then another miraculous comeback. The Knicks down 20, 22 in the fourth quarter. 7 minutes left. They came back. James Harden. First of all, James Harden just got arrested the other day, which the NBA just put that right under the rug. James Harden arrested for holding or carrying a weapon, legal weapon. Just an unserious competitor. Great skill, but an unserious competitor. And when I say unserious competitor, how do you let a guy score on you 6 to 7 possessions straight? Brunson just killing him. Himself, the comeback was Jalen Brunson. All the way down to the Shem bounce around 3. The Garden's rocking. Bridges, his 2 threes. The one where he's fading away. There's the shot clock. 1, 3, 2, 1. He fades away from the top or the wing. Hits the 3. Just a ridiculous comeback. And then they just blow it open in overtime. OG Anunoby with a few strong buckets. Shamit, another 3. Brunson leading the break. Just crazy game. And then from there, the series was over. They took the soul of the Cavs at game 1. They come out there. Man, game 2, where they threw blitzes at Brunson the whole night, turned him into a traditional point guard. They turned him into Steve Nash and John Stockton for a night, which is another reason. Brunson showed that he can do it. He can be a pass-first guy. He showed it, right? This whole thing where, he's not that much of a playmaker. He doesn't get his other guys involved. Why do you need to if you can score the way Jalen Brunson can? He is the best player in the NBA right now. The best player in the NBA. If he can score at that rate where you drop 32 points per game against the Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA Finals, why do you need to be the playmaker, the John Stockton, the Steve Nash, the Isaiah Thomas? Why do you have to play that traditional way if you can score at that alarming rate? So, game 2 versus the Cavs, he shows that he can be that traditional point guard. He has what I believe was like 20 points or 13 assists, something absurd for Brunson standards. He goes out there, assists the ball, and then that's the Josh Hart game. That's the Josh Hart game. That's the game where he couldn't miss from 3 while they're throwing blitzes at Brunson. So he shows he can be a point guard the old school way, the traditional way, which I think is blasphemous, means nothing. The whole point of basketball is to put the ball in the rim and score more points than your opposition. He does so on a night-to-night basis. So, again, he's not a playmaker. Out the window. And then they go to Cleveland. And here comes the Landry Shamet game. I said everybody had a game. And I didn't even shout out Clarkson's game in Atlanta. I think it was game 4. Scrappy game from Jordan Clarkson. Scrappy. In that series, he was very scrappy. Yes, he may not have had crazy stats, but he had very momentous, steals, rebounds, second chances, layups. He had a few games in that Atlanta series that changed everything for the Knicks as well. So shout out Jordan Clarkson as well. I know he can be a loose cannon at times, but every team needs that, and that's what he brought to this team. So then we get the Landry Shamet game, game 3 versus the Cavs. And Shamet, he couldn't miss. He's sidestep threes. He's doing all sorts of things. I mean, I think he had 15 points in a quarter just from 3. He was, I believe, like 10 of 11 or 9, something crazy like that in the Eastern Conference Finals. And then the Knicks game 4 just blow it out. Another game where it was just a full team game. Karl-Anthony Towns doing it on all fronts, rebounding, assisting, scoring. Complete game from Cat, complete game from the Knicks. OG, Bridges, Alvarado. Just an amazing closeout game. I think the key difference between the Spurs and the Knicks after they won both their series, right? The Spurs go 7 games with the Thunder. After they win the game, you would have thought that they won the NBA Finals. Tears. And I understand that, yes, there's passion. When you're a competitor, you want to win. You want to get to the next round. But like Kobe said, job's not finished. Nowhere near finished. So they were celebrating like it was basically they won it all because the East is weak, right? The East is sweet. And then here comes the Knicks. I understand, yes, the Knicks had blew out the Cavs, so it's a little different. But they didn't crack a smile. They didn't crack a smile. Maybe Cat, because yes, that's who Cat is. Jalen Brunson had not smiled for about 12 weeks. Seriously. Like, go look at the any press conference, go look at any post-game interview, any social media content. This guy has not smiled in 12 weeks at this point. Even dating to before the play-in started. Then the finals come around, and off the rip, you can just see the way they are guarding Brunson. They are guarding Brunson 94 feet. Kind of the same way they guarded SGA. But now it's 94 feet. They're throwing blitzes at him anytime a screen comes. The Knicks are trying to do guard-to-guard screens. It doesn't work because you can't do a big-to-guard screen. Wembanyama has a 30-foot wingspan. So they're throwing blitzes at Brunson at the timeline, and it felt like everything he had to do started 50 feet away from the rim. Like the offense had to start that far away from the rim because of the way that those guards, those 3-and-D guards and those wings guarded Brunson. Like it was ridiculous. Shout out Dylan Harper, because after they beat the Thunder, he was the one during the celebrations that was locked in. He said it. You could see, quote, he said, we got to get that get back. Get back for the cup is what he says. And he's talking about the Knicks beating the Spurs in the cup. Another game where they had a miraculous comeback, down double digits. And then here it goes. Kolek. Shout out him. Having a great game as the backup point guard. And then Jordan Clarkson. 3 momentous threes. Just, they showed the signs earlier in the year. Here comes the finals. Dylan Harper, who honestly should have started after game 1 or game 2. I understand as a coach, Mitch Johnson doesn't want to do that to your veteran point guard and De'Aaron Fox, who just had an abysmal finals. But you have to make adjustments. You do. And I do know that, Dylan Harper's minutes went up. They went up more and more throughout the series. But at some point, honestly, they didn't get off to a bad start any game. So it wasn't Fox starting that hurt them. This is the way he closed out games. So then, Brunson's getting guarded like crazy. Has a poor shooting night because he hadn't been guarded like that throughout the playoffs. This team has the depoy as their anchor, and then they got some of the best wings defensively in the NBA. I called it 2 or 3 episodes before the finals started that these guys are going to be tough for Brunson. Man, did he prove me wrong. Yes, they were tough. They were tough for him. That first game, it was something that he had never seen before. But the Knicks, here they go again. Jalen Brunson with just those clutch buckets down the stretch. He's got Vassell draped all over him. He has to shoot with his left hand. He's on the right corner of the free throw line. He has to shoot with his left hand, which means the ball is going to be in the defender's face. Like Harden does. You get a hand in there, the ball, it drops, right? He pumps and then steps through after Vassell jumps off of one leg, shoots it, makes it, right? He hits the floor. I see a lot of people talking about, but when Shea hits the floor, it's a problem. There's a difference. Brunson hits the floor because he altered his shot. He had to alter his body to get off a good shot. Shea hits the floor solely trying to get a foul call. Two different things. Don't get them mixed up. Well, Brunson did in game 1, that shot, unbelievable. Game 2, the finals, the cat game, I like to call it. Brunson only had 20 points. Cat and OG stepped up. But Brunson had probably the most important bucket and the most important steal of the postseason, where Wembanyama kind of showed his age, showed his youth in turning it over in the most important moments of the game. Game 3, I call that the Trump game, the Trump curse. That was just, Kat's fiance, Jordan Woods, couldn't bring her bag into the game. The bag that was 15-0, she couldn't bring it into the game. So that was just that, fans had to go in early. Probably wasn't as rowdy as it could have been. It was jumping in there. And again, Madison Square Garden is the greatest arena in the NBA, greatest atmosphere, greatest fan base. That is the Mecca. There's a reason they call it the Mecca. Stop trying to compare it to other places in the league. Where, yes, the last 20 years, the Knicks weren't so great. So they didn't get to see moments like, the Celtics and the TD Garden or, Staples Center and the Lakers. When the Knicks are good, there is no comparison to that place. You hear Kenny Smith say Annie up when Brunson's walking out. He does his spin in the hallway. He goes, Annie up. Oh, did they Annie up? That place was rocking. So then, that game, the Knicks just played terribly. They did. They played terribly. They got off to another cold start, which they did in all 5 games. They were just always playing from behind. They did make a run at it. The Spurs just hit some timely buckets, which they couldn't do all series when it mattered. Game 4. Got to sit back. I got to take a drink of water for this one. Because Game 4, the Knicks. I'm sitting there. I said if the Knicks lost Game 4, the series was over because the pressure was already back on the Knicks after losing Game 3. Then the Spurs come out. They go up 20 in the first quarter. It feels like up 29 in the second quarter, up 29, start the third. I texted my group chat. I wish I could show it. Texted my group chat. I said, all we can hope for is a miracle now. And then that was it. That was my last text until the game was over. It felt like the Spurs couldn't miss in that first half. It felt like the Spurs, there was, I remember the series before where the Knicks had that run versus the Cavs. They came back down 22, and everyone was talking about there's magnets in the rim. I've never seen this before in my life. Magnets in the rim, of course, when it's the Knicks. That's how I felt in that game 4 for the Spurs. It felt like they could have thrown the ball up with their eyes closed back to the rim like this, and the ball would have went in. And then here come the Knicks. You see a clip of Jalen Brunson saying, we've been here before. Keep playing. They just got to chip it. That was their message. We just got to chip the lead. And that was my whole thoughts is you got to chip. Just one by one. Go on these little spurts. And they did so. They went on those little spurts. Shout out Jose Alvarado. Yes, this is the OG, hand of God. This is the game where OG became just a New York legend. But shout out Jose Alvarado, whose plus or minus during that series was amazing. This was his game. The 2 threes, the spin layup, the finding the open man. When Brunson is getting hounded and double teamed and blitzed, he became the primary ball handler down the stretch. Shout out Jose Alvarado. That is the Jose Alvarado game, in my opinion. Brunson, the 3-pointer over Wembanyama. The defensive player of the year, 7'5", with nearly a 9-foot wingspan, 10-foot wingspan. Pulls a 3 over him like he's nobody. David and Goliath. Just ridiculous. makes the game a 1-point game. They go down, they hit a bucket. Knicks come back. Just a huge three, huge buckets, back and forth. Brunson floater, OG 3. Jose Alvarado 3. They put Cat in foul trouble again. It felt like the refs were just taking Cat out of every game. They call one thing on one side of the court, and then Cat breathes on someone, and it's a foul. He's in 3 fouls. Yes, I know that sometimes he could be careless with his fouls, but some of those, I mean, it's the NBA Finals. The way they've been calling it, you would think they just hated Cat. Like, they want him out the game. So, he's out the game. He's not having a great game, but he also had that crazy step back 3, which should have also been a foul. And then they come out there after the Fox bucket. You know, the Knicks are down 1. Also, the OG block, ridiculous. Don't know what De'Aaron Fox was doing in that moment. You literally dribble out, you go up 3. Now the Knicks have to score 3. You could play the free throw game. Terrible mistake for De'Aaron Fox, one of my favorite players in the league as well. I feel for him because that was just, maybe he thought he could score that. Put OG, that play right there saved the whole postseason. So then the Knicks, inbound with 6 seconds left, Brunson puts up a shot where I don't know why they had Wembanyama on Brunson all the way out there, 40 feet from the rim. Most important possession of the game, right? It felt like the Knicks had to get up a shot because the Spurs were going to foul and play the free, or not foul, but it felt like he had to get up a shot because there was a chance for a second opportunity, right, at the rim. And so Wembanyama is 40 feet from the rim, 35 feet from the rim, trying to contest Brunson. Brunson puts it up with a shot that literally could have dropped if he just put a little more on it. Online, everything was a soft bounce. OG, because De'Aaron Fox is now blitzing and double teaming Brunson for no reason. I don't understand. Brunson is being guarded by Wembanyama. Like I said before, 7'5", 7'4", 10-foot wingspan, whatever you want to call it. What is the need of bringing a second defender if Wembanyama's out there? He is a double team, essentially. With his wingspan, he essentially is a double team for a guy like Brunson that far away from the rim. So why do you bring another guy like Fox? Maybe that wasn't, the game plan. Maybe that wasn't what the coach called. But so he leaves his man, OG, who inbounded the ball. Brunson puts up the shot, and you just see OG crash. I feel like that whole moment lasted 45 seconds for me. That 3-second moment lasted 45 seconds. Everything was in slow motion. I didn't move off the spot I was sitting at, the chair I was sitting. I didn't move the whole second half. I felt like I couldn't mess with the equilibrium. OG comes in, he tips the ball, and it goes in. Just an impeccable, incredible storybook, historic, whatever you want to call it. That moment right there, I think, is the greatest moment in New York sports history. And I say that because the Knicks are represented fan base-wise by the whole team, whereas the Giants, the helmet catch, that's one half of the city, or like the Aaron Boone home run or stuff like that. The fan bases are split in the city. The New York Knicks are represented by the whole city. That tip-in is the greatest moment in New York sports history. Undoubtedly. Then the next possession, Cat with that tip. They couldn't get off a good shot. If that ball gets to Castle, they probably win the game. He probably gets to put up a dunk. They win the game. New York Knicks are stunned after coming back 29 points. However, they win it. Travel back to San Antonio. I just saw a post that said Luka talked to Brunson before Game 5 and said, "You got one more in you, man. Get it done." And he did, and he congratulated him. Luka, the Mavericks, what the hell are the Mavericks doing? That organization is lost. And then they got blessed with Cooper Flag. Well, they gave up Porzingis, who's now a champion. They gave up Brunson, who's now a champion and an NBA Finals MVP. Luka, who's been on the verge of winning an MVP for the last few years. Clueless. That organization is clueless. Game 5 was just. There was a moment in the game where I believed Brunson had scored a few buckets to cut it to 6, and Mitch Johnson calls a timeout, and I see Brunson look down and look up, And I knew we had it in the bag right there. Brunson, stone cold, like stoic in his face. He knew he had it. Captain Clutch. Greatest Knick of all time. Probably a top 5 point guard now, in my opinion. What a moment. You know, you see his father tell him, because they were throwing the blitz at him, you see his father tell him, just go. Just go. So then he comes back a few possessions later after hesitating, and then they had a shot clock violation. His dad tells him to just go. He just goes right past Castle, who was in foul trouble, 5 fouls. You got to know your personnel. You got to know your personnel. Know how many fouls they have. Goes right past Castle, puts up a floater, the Knicks go up. And then just down the stretch, the Knicks missing those free throws worried me, but they got it done. Mitchell Robinson with the biggest rebound in New York Knicks history. Guy that was drafted 8 years ago. A guy that was a second-round pick. A guy that didn't even play college basketball. Took basketball off for a year. Been a rebounder. He has a broken hand, and he still played. Yes, he couldn't hit his free throws, but he had a broken hand and still suited up with his guys. The biggest rebound in New York Knicks history. Period. That rebound off that missed free throw, I believe it was Hart that missed the free throw. Wow, man. Every player on that team, every single player on that team had a moment this year, and they all deserve the ring. They all deserve it, even down to Sohan, whatever you want to say. I think his name is Sohan, Jeremy Sohan. Even down to that, him just getting into Wemby's ear when we go to timeout, coming off the bench, you see Wemby walk past him, gives him a little bump to his face, getting into Wemby's ear throughout the series. Again, every single player deserves this ring, no matter what. All that, I got an A on the group project for doing nothing, means nothing, because you guys don't see what they do on a day-to-day basis when they travel or when they practice, or what it means, in training camp when guys come in and these second and third rotation guys have to give the starters a look. Every single one of those guys deserve this ring. And for them to get it done. Now, let me just go down. Now, let's switch to Victor Wembanyama, who, after the Western Conference Finals, I thought he was going to go get that ring. He, Defensive Player of the Year. The first time ever, unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. So the Knicks went and beat the unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. The discourse surrounding Wembanyama was he could be the next GOAT within the next few years, right? That was what we heard coming out of the media, coming from New York, from NBA fans. It was Wembanyama can be the next GOAT. Well, man, did he have a pretty nasty 180 where honestly his arrogance has completely changed his image. For me, kind of, I still think I love his competitiveness, but his arrogance, you would have thought this guy is a 3-time champion, a cemented legend in NBA history with the way he speaks to the media. He says during, I guess, the NBA Cup months ago, he goes, the Knicks don't play a sophisticated brand of basketball. What the hell does that mean? That same brand of basketball, you lost to them 6 times this year. What does that mean? See, that's what I mean when I say the arrogance. You would think he's LeBron the way he speaks. LeBron doesn't even speak that way. Curry doesn't even speak that way. Yes, they may talk about, themselves as a player. But what is this arrogance of, we're the better team? Show it. You've lost to them 6 times this year. What does we're the better team mean? We just have to play normal. It's the NBA Finals. You don't have to play normal. You have to play out of your body. It can't just be the same way you've played during the regular season. It has to be another notch. And that's something that Jalen Brunson has done his whole career, is he steps up in the biggest moments in the clutch. That's why he won Clutch Player of the Year. That's why his nickname is Captain Clutch. That's why his name is Brunson Burner, because he burns his opponents when it matters most in the clutch. So Wembanyama, right? I got a list here of a few things that he did during the NBA final, or NBA playoffs, that just completely, again, that 180 of his image just changed everything. The Nas Reed elbow, which Mitch Johnson did say, they've been hounding him all series, and I'm glad he defended himself. blah, 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 whatever. Very Meta World Peace-esque. Just straight elbow to the neck, the face, whatever, gets thrown out. Then in the OKC series, grabs Lou Dort's hair on the break. Mind you, I can't stand Oklahoma City. The way Shea plays, it makes me want my skin crawl. I think it's so bad for the NBA. Him, Harden, all these foul baiters, it makes me sick. They got 7-5 Wembanyama getting touched and falling to the floor too. Like, Adam Silver, fix the league immediately, please. So yeah, can't stand OKC, but the Lou Dort hair grab, crazy. He lowered his shoulder into Caruso. Caruso kind of sold it, but still, like, that's a flagrant, nonetheless. Then come the Knicks series, the finals, throws Alvarado to the ground. Like, he just throws Alvarado, grabs him from behind and shoves him. No call, nothing. The refs are blind. He had 2 reckless closeouts where, like, the one they called on Brunson was barely a flagrant. What Wembanyama did is textbook Zaza Pachulia. Like, the reason the rule was made is exactly what Wemby did. So they had 2 no calls right there, 3 no calls because there's 2 reckless closeouts, and then the Alvarado shoved. And then the next game, or that same game, or no, the next game 3, he just mushes Jalen Brunson. Like a clear flagrant. It could have been a flagrant 2, like you're out of the game. There's wind up. There's head to head. There's head contact. There's a follow through. It meets all the criteria of a flagrant foul. No call, nothing. Right? Another closeout or another reckless closeout in that game. And then the dive at OG, which I didn't even see during the game, just completely dives at OG's legs. Luckily, OG he misses. But you go and look at some of these moments on like a full reel of these moments, you would think Wembanyama is a very dirty basketball player. I'm not saying he is, but all of those moments, it's hard to deny that. It really is. So now I got to say, shout out to Mikal Bridges, who he lived it, right? He went up 2-0 in 2021 when the Suns, him, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton went up against Giannis, right? He goes and he loses 4 games in a row. CP3 goes down. They lose 4 games in a row. Giannis just has a legendary finals run. And you see his interview after game 2 where he says, it's 0-0. Stay desperate. You see it in his eyes. 0-0. Stay desperate. He's been there before. And man, you talk about a guy who elevates his game during the playoffs. Down the stretch, it was probably tough for him mentally. Knicks fans, sports fans, New York Knicks, New York sports fans getting on him for, his low field goal percentage. This guy elevated his game during the postseason the same way he did last year in the postseason. He had those 2 stops versus the Celtics, and his shooting just spiked. Kind of the same way we see Brunson's, activity spike in the postseason. Bridges' shooting was unbelievable. He stayed desperate. They took him out of one of those games. I believe it was game 3. They took him out of the refs. They got to take somebody out of some game to throw a team off their game plan. Bridges, he hit some timely buckets. I think he had 14 points in game 5. He had some timely buckets where, the Knicks might have went down by 9, went down by 11, 14, whatever. He hit huge threes, huge layups, huge floaters, just a lot of things that don't always end up in the highlight reel of a game. But as a Knicks fan, you will always remember. You will always remember. Josh Hart, heart of the city. He plays like what it means to be a true New Yorker, right? That grit, that hustle, that scrappiness, And let's not forget his rebounding. His rebounding throughout the finals, throughout the playoffs, up there with Dennis Rodman. Say what you want. It's up there with Dennis Rodman. He's shorter than him, 6'4" guard. It's out there rebounding with some of the best bigs in the game. 10 rebounds in game 5, I believe it was. This guy, he, comes to play with Brunson, you know, they're going to say, oh, they're going to win with the power of friendship. When, you know, they had DiVincenzo, had to give him up to get Cat, which is a deal they had to make. Very unfortunate for DiVincenzo that he had to go. Shout out to you, Devo. Hope you recover. But Hart, man, just his 3-point shooting, that game he had versus the Cavs, what his field goal percentage might not have always been great, but it was timely. He always had timely buckets. Buckets that, like, desperation threes, Hart's wide open because they can live and die with that. Well, they died with it. They died with it. Every team in this playoffs died with it. You leave Josh Hart open in a big moment, in a big spot, he's going to hit that three. May not hit the three when the game's close and it's just started, but he's going to hit that three when it means something. Shout out Josh Hart, Mitchell Robinson, the Deuce game, Shamit game. Like, these guys, this team from up and down. I mean, I might have to get just a poster of this whole team hanging up here on the set for the rest of the rest of the time that this show's airing. And then Mike Brown. Where do I begin? Mike Brown. I had doubts. He's forever a New York legend now. He really is. The Kings fired him for no reason. No reason. This is a proven coach, by the way. This is a coach that has won 3 finals as an assistant. He's been on some of the best staffs ever. Worked under Greg Popovich. Won 2 rings with the Warriors. Like, he's a proven winner. The Kings fire him for no reason. That's a dysfunctional franchise, a franchise that has no direction whatsoever. No idea what they're doing. They fired their coach of the year, by the way, when he was with the Kings. He's won it twice. And they fire him for no reason. Comes into the Knicks after not coaching for a year or being an assistant. And, I mean, there was a lot of up and downs throughout the season, but I think we can credit that to him starting to get to know this roster, know what guys, you know, the rotations. You got to know as an NBA coach when to put certain guys, when to insert certain guys into certain games. And, you know, he dealt with injuries. Like we said, there were games where, this is not a knock on Kevin McHale Jr., but there were games where he had to come in and actually contribute. There was that span of games where Kevin McHale Jr. was playing, I guess it was Minnesota, Atlanta, the Pacers, where guys went down and he had to step up. I think it was Josh Hart. Mike Brown actually played the bench. You know, and Thibodeau, he's an old school guy. And, you know, he might like to have a shorter rotation. Mike Brown did the opposite. He played the guys. He played 11 guys in some of those finals games, 12 guys in some of those games. And it proved to work. So, Mike Brown, shout out to you. Even though I had my doubts, he had an offensive masterclass throughout the playoffs. And I know he had to learn, and damn did he. Now he is a New York sports legend. Like, it is unbelievable. And then my last thing I want to say is that James Dolan speech where the 10 weeks speech, he says it's 10 weeks, you know, be desperate. I know this team can go and win it all, has completely changed my I guess, perspective on James Dolan. You know, he sees the Knicks the same way I see the Knicks, as in, like, you're passionate about it. And yeah, there was a moment where there was maybe 2 decades where he was playing GM, and, you know, maybe he had too much of a role in that front office. You know, he took a step back. You know, he went and got Leon Rose. Leon Rose, another New York sports legend, Worldwide West. Those guys completely changed my life with this team. Like, the city is beaming right now. So that James Dolan speech where he says 10 weeks, you know, he's going to get rings to the players' significant others, you know, because they got to sacrifice too. He said 10 weeks, stay desperate. I know you guys can do it, but you got to go out there and perform better and well. That speech fired me up, man. I need people to just watch some of these clips of that James Dolan speech. But to think that CJ McCollum gave the Knicks the most trouble in this playoffs is completely hilarious to me. Got 2 wins off of the Knicks. Performed ridiculous in those 2 games. I mean, Wemby only got 1 game off the Knicks. I'm in shock right now. And then just going up and down this list, I mean, watching all these clips of these guys. That one tweet, by the way, Brunson's rings are heavier than Kevin Durant. Undoubtedly. Kevin Durant left his team that had also already made the finals, a team that was up 3-1 versus that same team he left to go play with, and then he disappeared. It seems like people forget that KD disappeared in that Warriors Thunder series in 2015, or in 2016. He joins a team that had literally just had one of the greatest records in NBA history. A team that was in the finals, a team that you lost to. He joins the team. It's so disgusting. This ring from Brunson right here weighs 2 times what KD's rings weigh combined. And I stand on that. We really got to wind the clock back and go back to that Kevin Durant signing. Disgusting on his part, because he has yet to prove himself as a winner without Steph Curry at his side. So this Brunson ring is up there with Dirk, in my opinion. To come to New York when other guys wouldn't, when guys like KD, Kyrie, Harden shied away from the bright lights and went to go hide out in Brooklyn. They want to deny it. That's not what they did, but that's exactly what they did. When all these players didn't want to come play for James Dolan, they didn't want to play in New York. The bright lights. I mean, you look what happens to the Yankees, the Giants, the Jets, the Islanders, the Mets, Rangers, all of them. It's hard to play in New York. The fan bases are 2 to 3 times larger than any fan base out there. The media is just hounding you. You miss a shot, you're on the front page of every news outlet. Brunson came to New York, took a $113 million pay cut. And now he is one of the greatest New York sports athletes in the history of New York sports. And they got the nerve to compare him to guys like Kyrie. You nostalgia merchants need to stop, because the idea of Kyrie Irving is way better than what his career has panned out to be. And if we're talking all-time players, we are talking career. We are not talking the eye test. And I need you guys to get that straight. Kyrie Irving has never had a single MVP vote in his career. Jalen Brunson has had 144. Yes, he's never got the MVP, but at least he's gotten a vote. He's been up there. So again, you nostalgia merchants where you don't watch the game, but you watch the highlights. You watch the clips of, oh, look at Kyrie tear this guy up. Go look at that Celtics run where he was the number 1 option, the playoffs, where he played with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown, a finals MVP. 2 guys that have actually won, proven winners, where he was the number 1 option on that team. Again, if Kyrie was on the Knicks, it would be the same thing, or Kyrie never had to play with a team like the Knicks, but earlier in the year, it was the Knicks aren't about it, or this team isn't good, or this team is not going to get the job done. Which one is it? Which one do you guys want? Jalen Brunson, he's a 3-time second-team All-NBA. Should have been first-team one of those years. Kyrie has only made second-team All-NBA once. He's made third-team twice. What are we talking about here? He just won a finals as a finals MVP. 45 points in the closeout game. He averaged 32 points in the NBA Finals as the number 1 option versus the unanimous Defensive Player of the Year. Why is this even an argument? Cut it out. I love Kyrie. I've got pairs of his shoes in my closet. One of my favorite players of all time. But if we are talking all time, this is not an eye test. This is not a skill thing, right? Because we can put KD at the top. If that's how we're going to grade players, you can put KD at the top. That is one of the most skilled players in NBA history. Kyrie, I believe, is the most skilled NBA player ever. Right there. KD, Kyrie, Kobe, Jordan. Those are like some of the most skilled players in NBA history. But it's not an eye test. It's what you've done. What have you done accolades-wise? What have you done statistically? What puts you up there? Not an eye test. So, Brunson, you're close to being top 5 point guard of all time. It's hard to put you above Westbrook. Love Westbrook as well. His run was undeniable. Magic Johnson's up there. Isaiah Thomas. He's past Stockton and Nash. I saw someone say he's not better than Stockton and Nash. Those 2 guys couldn't tie Jalen Brunson's Kobe's. So let's forget that. I'm trying to get 5 names here, and obviously Steph Curry. So maybe he is 5th. That's all I got to say. And then also the World Cup. The last thing, the World Cup, the Stars came out to play last night. Mbappe, a brace. Great goals. The second goal was just a complete banger. Haaland doing what he does. Yes, tap-ins, but he is just he's a force. He's a force. Those 2 goals were just his passion and his ability to just wreck a game. That was Haaland. And then Leo Messi. Leo Messi. I don't understand how some people can watch what we watch on the pitch, watch what he does on the pitch on a night-to-night basis, on a when he's out there, when he's representing his country or when he's representing his club, whatever it is, what we see him do on the pitch. It's not even a debate. That hat trick last night, he is now tied for the most goals in World Cup history. Yes, I do believe Mbappe will break that record in years to come. But he is now competing with a whole other generation. He had his competitors, he had his rivals from the last era, and now he's competing with guys like Haaland and Mbappe. 10 years later. How is there even a debate for who's the GOAT? Are we watching the same thing on the pitch? The man scans the field, knows where to be at the right time, doesn't turn the ball over. I mean, Messi, man, that is the GOAT, hands down. This team Argentina loses Messi, they will never be the same. They're going to have to birth another Messi. And then a team like Ronaldo or a team like Portugal can lose Ronaldo, and I think they can still be a force. That's the problem for me. Messi, it's a joke. It's a joke. I think it's a joke. The man, what he did last night in Kansas City. How can you deny that is the greatest football player of all time? That's all I got to say. My New York Knicks won that championship. Parades tomorrow. Can't wait. Thank you guys for watching. Rob, we're going to get another episode out early next week. Rob was, believe in Italy for a wedding, having a great time. You got to watch the Knicks at 7 a.m. win it all. Just scenes, man. Unbelievable. But we appreciate you guys for tuning in. That merch did drop. It's going to be in the link in the bio. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm James Martin III. Shout out to New York Knicks. Getting it done. This is the Hillside Club where there are no hot takes, just real ones. Peace, guys.